I think, Tanya, as long as we work together to have clear objectives about where we want to go, that's the most important thing. The federal government has stepped into a waste and recycling space of, as I call it, real microeconomic reform where we haven't been before, and that's exciting. And the other exciting thing is, as I said, we don't get pushback and we don't get argument and we don't get finger pointing. But everything can't be done top down from a federal government level. It starts at your curbside, it starts in your bin, it starts with your local council, and it involves industry. It involves industry that collects your waste, that understands how to sort your waste, and can produce those clean waste streams that will ultimately be part of a circular economy. So critical collaboration is the key.
And you mentioned that sorting so that we have those clean waste streams, and contamination is often that big problem we hear about, but that is where technology is improving. So I think it's worth asking you, Dr. Finkel, what else do you think the role is of science and technology in helping Australia to meet its 2030 waste and recycling targets as set out in the action plan?
Well, thank you, Tanya. It won't surprise you. I think there are a lot of roles for science and technology. One that I think about a lot is how do you deal with the more difficult to recycle plastic, which is what I call crushable or soft plastic. It's more difficult than hard plastics. And can science and technology help? I think absolutely. And I like to use the analogy of fossil fuels, petrol in cars. When we use petrol in cars and we drive them around, of course, we get carbon dioxide as a byproduct. It's an emission byproduct that we absolutely don't want. And the solution going forward is electric vehicles, whether they're powered by batteries or by hydrogen. They're electric vehicles. And the nice thing is...
You get hydrogen in there somewhere.
I had to get hydrogen in. And the nice thing is that there are no emissions at the point of use. The problem is shifted to the supply side, where you've got large-scale production, and it's much easier to produce zero emissions electricity, such as solar farms or wind farms. The analogy for plastic, for crushable plastic, is to make biodegradable plastics, because actually recycling crushable plastic is difficult. And biodegradable plastics are not as easy to make as you might think. There's a lot of science that still has to be put into what it is that activates them to degrade, because initially they've got to do good work, like carrying liquids or food, and you don't want them degrading too quickly. And I don't think people have solved the problem. I did an N=1 experiment about a year and a half ago. I took 3 different biodegradable plastic bags that I bought at the supermarket, and I put them all into bottles, glass bottles, with water, drilled holes in the caps, and put them up on the balcony so that we had sunlight, water and oxygen. I thought, gosh, that combination should cause them to biodegrade. And 1 year later, I took out the 3 plastic bags. 2 of them looked brand new, and 1 of them had got soft and slushy. There's a lot of work that needs to be done so that we can focus on eliminating the problem at source or at the point of use.
Yeah. Well, I think that science and technology does have a lot to offer us there, but I will say on the subject of soft plastics that you're actually sitting on a bench that used to be soft plastics. Little shout out to Liz Castle. You're there in the audience somewhere from Red Cycle. The plastic bag collections that are collected at supermarkets, they get turned into things like park benches by guys like the Replast guys that, yep, there's a wave at the back of the room. So it might not feel soft, but you are sitting on soft plastics. So there you go. But yes, I agree. You know, further research in recyclable plastics that are biodegradable, very important. I also wanted to ask Dr. Finkel, what's the low-hanging fruit, do you think, in Australia? What are our easy opportunities?
Gosh, well, one is, it's not all science and technology, so proper management of curbside waste. I have a friend, so where I live, we have 2 bins, and I'm pretty confident, as the Prime Minister sort of alluded, that whatever I throw into the recycle bin probably ends up in landfill, which is sad. But some of the councils are starting to respond to that, and I've got a friend who was just telling me that they've now got 4 bins, and they've been educated as how to use those bins, so the obligation is on them. And he got dinged last week. He got dinged. So one of his bins didn't get collected. It had a shame thing put over the top of it, a sign put over the top of it, because they send inspectors in advance of the trucks, and the inspector had found in their waste bottles bin, they had left the caps on. Now, you're not allowed to leave the caps on. So that behavioural management, the commitment by council and signalling back to the users, to us, that they're serious about it, can make a huge, huge difference. But certainly, another thing, just one more. One of the problems with recycling waste, and this is where technology can help enormously, is just the expense of separating it. Even after you get the behavioural management I was talking about, you're still going to put those waste products onto production lines, and you're not going to get a uniform stream that you can just put into a machine to turn into your recycled products. And it's just too difficult to expect people to sit there and pluck the ones you want into one bin and the ones you don't into another. And this is where artificial intelligence, image recognition through artificial intelligence, I think could make a huge difference going forward. And it's a big opportunity for Australia, because in image recognition in particular, we have some very good skilled scientists doing artificial intelligence development.
Yeah, exciting. Of course, you know, the recycling, the waste that we put in our rubbish bins originally came into our house after we visited the supermarket, which brings me nicely to you, Sandra. So only industry can design out problematic packaging. What's Nestlé's experience been with this?
Thank you. We have been in this journey for quite a while now. The first thing that we had to do is to look at every single packaging in our portfolio and to see what is problematic, what is not recyclable about each of them. In Australia, the PREPS tool, which sits behind the Australasian recycling label, has helped us unpack and understand better each component of our packaging. So now we know the material it's made of, the size of each piece. If it's too small or too large, won't be sorted properly. The pigments in it, incredible. Certain pigments stop items from being detected. So once we had this understanding, it was critical for the development of our, what I call our strategic framework to address, in general, packaging waste. And the first pillar is to develop packaging for the future. And under this pillar, we are committed to 100% of our packaging recyclable or reusable by 2025. But not only that, we are also committed to reduce the use of virgin plastic by a third. Now, it's super important to understand that for the food industry, the access to what we call food-grade recycled plastic packaging is currently a challenge.
Yes.
Simply today, there is not enough offer of this material. So a few weeks ago, we made the global announcement to allocate more than $2.3 billion to kickstart a market for these materials, to encourage suppliers to develop it and to make it available for the industry. It's a first step in the circular economy for soft plastics, for example. The second pillar is helping shape a waste-free future. We understand. We are the largest food company in the world. And we understand that having our packaging 100% recyclable is not enough, especially if that packaging is not going to get recycled and transformed into something new. And I was very pleased to hear from the Prime Minister today that this concept of collaboration from suppliers, from manufacturers, brand owners, waste management organizations, and government, we have the responsibility to respond to this new generation, right? In closing the loop of recycling. So I was very pleased with that. In that regard, also, I'm very pleased to announce, or the announcement that we made today about our partnership with IQ Renew to run a trial to collect soft plastics from more than 100,000 homes in Australia. That project or that trial will help us understand how can we dramatically increase the collection of soft plastics, and how can we convert, not only divert that waste from landfill, but create some valuable resource to complete the circular economy. Very pleased because I had also had some conversations with other people here in this room, and I'm so excited because everybody's saying, and we can collaborate with this, and we can do this, and it's not a small scale, but I can feel the spirit that we can do this, that it can really be, for one of the most complicated plastics that we have in Australia, to have the circular economy. And finally, pillar number 3, driving an understanding of an embedded behavior. And here is about helping consumers understand how better sort their waste. And again, here, the Australasian recycling label is and will be our ally. By the end of the year, 100% of all the packaging that we locally manufacture here in Australia will be displaying this label, so that we can help consumers know in which bin to put each element. The good news is that more than 70% of the products that we sell here in Australia are made here in Australia.
Excellent. So good combination. Now, Assistant Minister Evans, do you think Australians have lost faith in our waste and recycling systems, and how can we restore their trust?
It's a really good question, Tanya. My sense is that Australians haven't lost faith in recycling, but their faith has been shaken. To the extent that they have learnt about how much of Australia's waste has been shipped offshore to become the problem of other countries, or to the extent that they've discovered that all the things they've been carefully putting in their recycling bins have all too often been dumped into landfill right alongside their general rubbish. That has certainly got people's attention. But as Susan said before, I spend a lot of time running around this country talking with many of the people who are in this room, actually seeing the great work that they're doing, learning about the challenges and the opportunities that they see in front of us. And while that certainly means that I encounter a lot of great smells as I visit tips and recycling stations and transfer stations and so on, it also means I can report very honestly that there's a lot of passion around Australia and a lot of motivation to get this right. So I prefer to see the big challenges and the public's growing awareness of them as an opportunity rather than a case of talking about lost faith. If we can grab this moment when so many Australians are paying attention to it, we've got a fantastic opportunity where everybody genuinely is leaning in to these challenges and really trying to get us to the same destination. We've got some environment ministers here from WA and the ACT and representatives of local government and other states and territories and so many other important stakeholders and representatives from all around Australia here. And my real sense, as we got together late last year and formed Australia's National Waste Action Plan with many of the targets and actions that we're talking about today, is there is a lot of goodwill. And as Susan said, there's a great opportunity for us to coordinate our efforts and collaborate. And we're very conscious that one of the best things that the federal government can bring to the table is that national leadership piece, which the federal government talked about. And I guess a policy-making and coordination role that can bring all of the great ideas that are out there together into a cohesive set of policies going forwards.
Thank you, Assistant Minister Evans. And I must say, I feel your pain. In my career as on TV, I think I've taken film crews or photographers to landfill sites, recycling facilities, and even a sewage treatment plant about a dozen times. So all the glamorous jobs, I feel your pain. Raphael, what has the PACT Group's experience been with this? And, what do you think the design solutions are?
Okay, so firstly, can I thank the Prime Minister, Minister Lee, Minister Evans, for their leadership in getting us all together here today in Canberra to talk about this important issue. I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, and this is actually the first conference. This is the first get-together by the entire industry to talk about this important issue. And one of the most important things for me is, where is our leadership? Because with great leadership, you can do amazing things. And I think this government is certainly demonstrating that leadership and action is really the key to fixing the problem. So firstly, I want to congratulate you all. I think it's fair to say that 99% of the audience don't live in Canberra. Everyone's made a huge effort to be here. So put your hands together, not only for your own effort to get here, but for the government's effort in this amazing cause. The second thing I want to talk about is how exciting this particular moment in time is for our country. For me and for our business, Pact Group, the key is, and I hope the agenda for the day is, how do we turbocharge the circular economy in Australia? At Pact, we believe there actually is a silver bullet, and that silver bullet is end-to-end solutions. You heard the Prime Minister talk about collaboration. You heard the Prime Minister talk about developing the front end, the raw material, the collection. You heard the Minister talk about how important it is to have industry solutions for the middle piece. And finally, and most importantly, you heard about how important it is to have large sinks for raw materials. I think that is part of the critical thing, and I hope we talk a lot about that today. It's now probably appropriate to start ringing the bell. So I don't know where the bell is. Are you ready to ring the bell? Because
yeah.
we have a pretty exciting announcement. Before we ring the bell, I just do want to acknowledge there are a lot of people in the room that are very familiar faces that are doing amazing things. There are our customers, our suppliers, and in their own quiet way, there are amazing stories and amazing bits of work that are going on to boost the circular economy. So a big shout out to all of those people, the quiet Australians that are actually doing amazing things for the circular economy. Our announcement today is Pact Group is committed to leading the circular economy through significant investment in existing and new facilities over the next 5 years. Today, later this morning, we will unveil a commitment to work with government and like-minded partners to invest $500 million in the circular economy by 2025. So, we accept that waste is our responsibility, and we accept that it is important for us to play our role. I would just urge everyone in the room, now is time to really take action and to be bold. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's off to an exciting start this morning. Now, the next couple of questions, we're going to do like a quiz show, rapid fire round, so short, sharp and shiny answers because we're running out of time. So all of you, I want to know your quick thoughts on this. Australia wants to be a world leader on waste and recycling issues. What are other nations doing well in this space, and what could we learn from them? We'll start with you, Minister Lee, and work through the group.
I think, as Rafi said, the end-to-end processing, and I've always said we want this to be an Australian design solution. Why export and then turn around and import the remanufactured product if we can get end-to-end processing? And I think if you look at Europe, there's quite a bit of that. So that's a big challenge, but it's achievable. Thank you, Rafi, and thank you. We didn't ring the bell for Nestle and IQ Renew, but that's 2 bells, everybody. There might be another bell coming later today. Fingers crossed.
Assistant Minister Evans.
Well, look, another big challenge I think out there where we can really learn from some other countries around the world is around the education and awareness piece. And I did just want to give a big shout out to the work of Planet Ark and APCO in relation to the new Australasian recycling labels we're starting to see roll out on all sorts of products, including Nestle's on supermarket shelves and shop shelves. These are the sorts of very simple, well-designed, intuitive instructions and logos that are going to allow all of those Australians out there who want to make the right decision to be able to make it in that split second when they're confronted with a piece of packaging or a product. They're looking at their bins and they want to know really quickly and with authority, which bin am I putting this into? It's great work, and it's actually going to lead the world if we can roll this out well.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree because I know that that idea has been worked on for decades, back when I was at Planet Ark. Sandra?
Well, having lived in... Thank you. Having lived in Switzerland before coming here to Australia, one thing that I really admire from Switzerland, which makes quite easier for the consumer to really know where to put their beans on, is that there's a lot of standardization in terms of bean colors and where each different waste goes in. So I think there is a good opportunity there, and it will really simplify the life of our consumers to really know where to put their
True, and
waste.
that's starting to be rolled out in Victoria. It's just been announced. So the bin colours in Victoria will match the Teletubbies. So I'll be able to tell my kids that glass bottle goes in the Tinky Winky bin. Dr. Finkel.
So we've talked about educating the public and helping them to do their sorting, but I think that's important, and we can learn from overseas, integrating waste management into society so that it's respected and we can get multiple benefits. About 10 years ago, I went to a business meeting in Copenhagen, in Denmark, in a nice modern building just on the outskirts of the CBD, in a boardroom at an upper level. It was the municipal high-temperature incineration facility. And it was on the outskirts of the CBD, so not only could it incinerate the waste and get a small amount of solid residue, but it also produced electricity that went straight into the city grid, and it also produced heat, because in Copenhagen it's cold and they have pipes, and so it was contributing to the municipal heating as well.
So cogeneration. Excellent. Rafi?
So for me, Australians are some of the best recyclers in the world, and they deserve a circular economy that actually converts the raw material that they collect or that they're sorting into valuable products.
Excellent. Next and last rapid fire question. Which piece of the puzzle are you particularly looking forward to in the breakout sessions that we'll be having and discussing and finding solutions for? Minister Lee again.
As a rural and regional member, and I know Stephen Dawson's here, the Environment Minister from WA, quick shout out to Chris Steele from the ACT, our communities can be a long, long way from the major recycling pickup plants, but everyone there still wants to play their part. So whether it's small and modular or mobile, I am actually really interested in ideas that allow rural Australia to contribute.
And I think that's a good point, because that is what makes Australia very different from somewhere like Switzerland with a large population, small land area. Assistant Minister Evans.
Yeah, in so many areas of public policy, prevention's often better than the cure. So I'm really excited and looking forward to some of the work that's going to be done around phasing out, designing out, getting rid of plastic and other issues in packaging and products that just doesn't need to be there. And that's an area where a lot of hard work needs to be done by the experts in industry and in our environmental groups and other researchers and scientists. And I think the more we can do to support them in those efforts, the better.
Excellent. Sandra?
I am very much interested in the economics of plastics. From my childhood, I know that every challenge that we face, it's a huge opportunity in front of us, and this plastic challenge should be an opportunity for us. And I'm really looking forward to all the ideas for us to make this challenge that opportunity and making this a circular economy.
Dr. Finkel?
Well, of course, I'll be looking forward to the discussions around where science and technology can contribute to making the process of building that circular economy more cost-effective and efficient. But also, I would hope that there is some discussion about how to balance competing environmental outcomes. There are no simple, singular solutions in anything we do in this complex world. And so we do need to keep food fresh, but we need to eliminate single-use wrapping. How do you balance those competing outcomes?
Yes, that's a good point. Finally, Raphael.
For me, the focus today is how do we get collaborative solutions going. Over the 30-year journey, what I've witnessed over a period of time, we've had many recycling crises, and invariably we haven't been able to solve them because Industry is either try to find a solution on its own, governments try to find a solution on its own, and really I'm hoping that today we start talking about how we collaborate as a community to get an end result.
Excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking our panel. Now, naturally, we're running a little bit behind time, so we'll have a short morning tea break. Morning tea will be both here and upstairs, but we encourage people to go straight to their breakout sessions after morning tea. So grab something to eat and drink. Now, if you're in doubt which session to go to, if you've forgotten which session you've RSVP'd for, then stay in the room or go to this room or go to session 1 upstairs, because those sessions can accommodate more people. Now, the sessions are, and I'll ask each of the facilitators to stand as I read them out so that you know who you'll be following. Session 1, Addressing Plastics at its Source. That will be facilitated by John Gatsakis. Where are you, John? Yep, excellent, over there. Yeah. Session 2, Plastics and Our Daily Life. Peter Schmiegel, who was on the radio with Fran Kelly this morning. Where are you, Pete? Here, yep. Stand up so they can see you. He's in the fluoro shirt. You'll be able to find him easily. Excellent. Session 3, Plastics Revolution with Joanne Manning. Joanne? And that will be upstairs. Session 4, Plastics in the Economy with Professor Damien Gruco. And that will be here in the Great Hall. And Session 5, Oceans and Waterways. That will be with Ben Pearson. Ben. Excellent. And that will be upstairs too. So for those going upstairs now, please follow the ushers to your morning tea. And for those staying in the session in this room, morning tea will be served here. Lunch will be upstairs after the session, and ushers will guide you there after your morning breakout session. Now, please note that the Australian Packaging Covenant Organisation will hold a media announcement at lunchtime here in the Great Hall. You're invited to attend. Go forth and come up with solutions to plastic waste.